Dr. Juliet Wu, Half Moon Bay, California. Dr. Wu rode in the back seat of a black government SUV. It drove slowly through the perimeter the Highway Patrol had set up around the Voyager Dawn crash site. A mob had gathered, along with a dozen news outlets, as word had reached them about the beached ship. Without answers, the media speculated on what happened. During the flight to California, Wu read up on the CIA's report on the Pangu Virus. She was aware of it, and what the Chinese military had done with it years ago, using an earlier weaponized version on their people. She had advised the president back then of the need to get our hands on a virus sample. What little information had been smuggled out frightened her. It would appear the Defense Department finally listened. However, they failed to advise her and the CREC of the operation, where she could have given them greater insight on how to transport the sample back to the United States properly. Their hubris, as usual, got the better of them, and now it was up to her agency to clean up the mess. Wu's vehicle stopped on the road that overlooked the Voyager Dawn beaching site. Standing outside her car was Dr. Victoria Kira, a former viral researcher for the World Health Organization, until Dr. Wu recruited her. The woman was brilliant, resourceful, and professional. Her natural good looks were the only thing that seemed to get in her way. Men tended to do a double take when she entered a room, which only served to irritate Kira to no end, as she prized her abilities and mind above anything else. Dr. Kira walked over to Wu. An umbrella was held out for Wu to take as she exited the vehicle. "Look at this. What a mess," Wu said. "Indeed, Doctor. I'm afraid it is much worse inside the ship," Kira replied. The two women stood next to the highway guardrail and looked down at the cargo ship that had come to rest on the beach. It listed 60 degrees to the ship's port side. "How many?" Wu asked. 16 crew members, all dead, including 4 Navy SEALs. However, 2 crew members, including one of the SEALs, died from injuries sustained during the storm, Kira reported. "Why did those fools go through the storm while carrying the worst virus we've ever discovered instead of around it?" Wu asked. "They tried. Langley wanted the samples back in the US as quickly as possible. The Chinese are not too thrilled about the attack on their island either. They're making quite the fuss about it," Kira answered. "Covering their ass, more like it. If this gets out, China will ensure everyone knows they kept the virus locked away, safe, and far from any civilian population. Damn the fact they weaponized the thing in the first place," Wu said. Wu turned away from the Voyager Dawn and said, "All right, let me see them." The two women walked down the shoulder of the road until they came to a long series of trailers with CERC markings on the sides. Inside, the containers were broken into segments of independent rooms filled with medical equipment. Glass barriers separated each room, which was currently occupied. They arrived on the scene when the discovery of the Voyager Dawn was made. Wu stood, looking into the first examination room. A police officer named Nick Holmes was strapped down onto a bed, wearing a medical gown. He was shaking uncontrollably, as if he was cold, despite the fact that he was sweating buckets. His skin had turned ashen gray, and all of his veins jutted against his skin were bright purple. His eyes were bloodshot and yellow. Blood drizzled from his eyes, nose, and mouth. "This man was first on the scene?" Wu asked. "He was. Officer Nicholas Holmes, California Highway Patrol, 8 years on the job. He had direct contact with the woman who called in the Voyager Dawn, Chelsea Trader." "Did the rest of these people have contact with her?" "Some of them, yes. Others appeared to have gotten sick from direct contact with Officer Holmes." "This isn't right. The virus is progressing too quickly. Why aren't they dead already?" Wu asked, more to herself than to Dr. Kira. Wu pressed the receiver button on the side of the wall and spoke. "Officer Holmes, I'm Dr. Juliet Wu, Director of the Center for Epidemic Research and Control. Can you understand me?" Officer Holmes did his best to turn his head and speak, but words seemingly could not be formed, or it was too painful to try to talk. Nevertheless, Wu could tell from his eyes that he was lucid enough to understand what she was saying. "My word," Kira said as she looked at Officer Holmes more carefully. "Those growths, do they look like coral to you?" "Those weren't there when I left to meet you, Doctor." Wu studied what Kira was referring to. It did appear that some kind of hard coral-like substance had broken through Officer Holmes' skin, around his neck and left shoulder. "I want you to know that we're doing everything we can to help you, but I need to know more about what happened when you arrived. From your report, you indicated that there was a girl who was first on the scene. Chelsea Trader?" Officer Holmes nodded. "Yes." "Very good. Can you remember for me, did Miss Trader look ill to you in any way? Bloodshot eyes, bleeding from her orifices, or any unusual behavior? The officer shook his head. No. Are you certain? Wu asked. He nodded yes. How long between the first 911 call and when Officer Holmes arrived at the scene? Wu asked Kira. 8 minutes. And how long before Officer Holmes and the others first began showing signs of infection? Within the first hour. The police questioned Ms. Trader for over an hour before she could go. She should have shown some signs of infection by then, Kira said. Are you certain, officer, that Miss Trader did not appear sick to you in any way? Wu asked. He nodded yes again. Just then, Officer Holmes began to convulse violently, his mouth opening wide as a strange and inhuman sound cried out. Unfortunately, he was not the only one, as Dr. Wu and Kira witnessed each patient react the same way. They fought against their restraints as their eyes bulged and their behavior became aggressively violent. Both Wu and Kira could not help but step back out of fear as the man they talked to no longer seemed or acted human. Reacting to what? Kira asked. I don't know, but something has changed. Wu turned to Kira and said, We need to find Chelsea Trader.